What's up YouTube? I'm Mike and today we are talking about what my opinion for your second steroid cycle is. This is the second video in the series, so if you haven't seen the first video, I'm probably not going to link it up here. Just go to my channel page, and it was one of my most recent videos, what you should take for your first steroid cycle. I will take a second to reiterate 2 points because I don't really have a choice. One, do not break the law in your country. Don't buy steroids at all. They're probably going to kill you. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your lawyer. I'm just a guy. Do not listen to anything I'm telling you to do because I don't know what I'm talking about. Also, partially that's true. There's a lot of people out there who have far more experience with this than I do, but they're not making videos talking about it. And because I get asked about it almost constantly, I decided to put my opinions out there. So take it for what it's worth. It's just my opinion. Obviously, don't get yourself in trouble, don't break any laws, and all that shit. So now that that's being said, in our previous video, I talked about your first cycle basically only needing to be 200 to 250 milligrams of test if you have never done a steroid cycle before in your life at all. For this video, we're talking about either A, your second steroid cycle, or B, if you're a person who is already using TRT, so you were already on, for example, 200 milligrams of test E or C per week, and you've gotten everything that you feel like you can get out of TRT alone, and you want to step it up a little bit, what should you do? That's what we're talking about today. So again, my opinion is that for a second steroid cycle or first cycle coming off TRT, the dose you want to be looking at is somewhere in the 500 to 600 milligram range. Now, could you take less? Yes. If you were following the advice in the first video and you start off running 200 milligrams of test E per week, could you just go to 300? Sure. You absolutely could just go to 300, keep your bulk going, see if that's enough to stimulate more growth. And you could just slowly add 100 milligrams at a time if you want to. I don't personally think that's the most, the best way to do it. So if you have, like I said, if this is your second cycle or you've been cruising on the 200 that I mentioned before, or you're on TRT and you've hit a plateau, my recommendation is to stick with test only and raise the dose to 500 or 600 milligrams a week. Depending on what you're looking to do, what your first cycle was it 200, 250, 300? That's how you can determine whether you want to go to 500 or 600 milligrams. Again, these doses you should expect to be very, very, very well tolerated by your body. Yes, they are going to give you super physiological levels of testosterone. So if your doctor, for example, is looking at your blood work, he's going to probably freak the fuck out when you have a total test north of 3,000 nanograms per deciliter and a free T north of 1,000 picograms per milliliter, which is what my blood work reflects. If I'm on 500 milligrams of test E, I'm going to have 3,300 give or take nanograms per deciliter testosterone level and over 1,000 free. So if your doctor sees that, he's going to freak the fuck out and tell you that's entirely too high. It is 3,000 nanograms per deciliter total is 3 times the normal reference range. Now, obviously we don't give a shit about reference ranges because we're trying to blast into supraphysiological territory, and so that's what you could expect your blood work to look like, which is a good way of finding out if the shit you're using is real. So if you get gear from some other source that I mentioned in my first video and your testosterone levels are not well above the top end of the range, then I hate to break it to you, your shit's no good. So that all being said, again, we're looking at the same cycle length. We're looking at 14 to 16 weeks ideally of 500 or 600 milligrams of test. So what about estrogen? Again, I can only give you what my body requires, and my body seems to be very abnormal when it comes to estrogen. My body aromatizes estrogen at a very high rate. So at 200 milligrams of test E per week, I require 1.5 milligrams of Arimidex to keep my estrogen in check. At 500 milligrams a week, I require 3 milligrams of Arimidex per week to keep my estrogen in check. This is not me guessing. This is backed up by multiple blood pools. 3 milligrams a week is how much Arimidex it takes me to not have a whole host of estrogen-induced problems at 500 milligrams of testosterone a week. I suspect again that I'm on the very high end of the range, so you will probably not need that. You will probably need much less. The only way to know for sure is to check your blood work frequently. Check it in the beginning, check it 6 weeks, check at the end. If you're just getting into hormones, if you're just getting into cycling steroids, the best practice that you can have is check your blood work as frequently as possible if you want to know what is going on. Now, I am notorious about not doing a good job of that because it's expensive and it's a pain in the ass, and I hate doing it. And so my wife nags me regularly to go get my blood work checked. And if you do that, it takes a lot of the questions out of this game. You just know it. You know if your gear's good. You know if you have your hormones in check. You know what your lipids are. You know all of those things. You don't have to fucking guess. For me, I'm kind of in this category where I don't give a shit about my health really anymore, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. And so sometimes it doesn't make any sense to spend money on blood work if I'm just going to keep blasting regardless of what it says. So, again, 14 to 16 weeks, 500 to 600 milligrams, progressive overload. That never changes. I don't give a shit if you're on your 5,000th cycle. Unless you're at a point where you are not trying to build any more muscle, you are only maintaining what you've already built and you're fine-tuning and you're doing all these things, then maybe at that point progressive overload is not that big of a deal. Right now for you in cycle number 2, progressive overload is like your religion. You have got to do it or you might as well just fucking give up completely and get off the roids, and it's a waste of your time. If you're not pushing your body with progressive overload, then you are not going to stimulate muscle growth and you are pissing in the wind. Number 2 or 3 or whatever point I'm on here, it doesn't really matter, diet. So you have got to maintain your diet. This is cycle number 2. This is 500 to 600 milligrams of test. This is a bulking cycle. We're still trying to grow. Cutting cycles are going to be coming up very, very soon. Right now we're growing, and in my estimation, it's best to lean bulk. We don't want to get unnecessarily fat and then make our cutting process substantially more difficult. So aim for a calorie surplus of 500 to 750 calories per day, and you should see some good, solid, lean muscle gains during the course of this cycle. At 500 milligrams of test, you should expect a little bit more aggression. Again, testosterone is very well handled, very well tolerated in the body. This is not going to make you roid rage or anything close to it. But you will probably notice a little bit more aggression than you had at 200, obviously. And maybe some extra libido. All of that is really going to depend on your body and how well you maintain your estrogen. So many of the positive effects of doing steroids can be completely eliminated by not controlling your estrogen. So if you're on 500 milligrams and your libido is not through the roof, get your estrogen checked. That's the number one thing that breaks my dick no matter what cycle I'm on. Could be DECA, could be Tren, could be Test, Anavar, T, it doesn't matter. The thing that breaks my dick the most is fucking estrogen. These female hormones are a disaster. But on the one side where it can break it, it can make it really great on the other. So you've just got to find out where your body functions. Does your body function better with a little bit extra estrogen? Do you like to be in the middle of the range, the low end of the range? And that's what the significance of that blood work will tell you. If you get to a point in your cycle where you're feeling this shit, the strength is good, the libido's good, you got erections like you were 16, you know, you're banging your old lady so much you can't fucking walk straight, everything is going good for you right now, you're really feeling it, go get your blood work. Find out. Okay, take notes. I'm on 500 milligrams. This is how much Arimidex I'm taking. This is everything that I'm doing right now. Then go get your blood work pulled immediately, and then you have a snapshot of, okay, this is what my E2 looks like when I'm fucking like a champion. This is what my E2 looks like when my joints are feeling good and my lifts are up and my confidence is good and I'm not crying and shitty movies or because that shit will happen. If your estrogen gets high, there is a number of effects. I've made multiple videos about this, but I have had situations where I have come home from work and fucking started bawling in the living room talking to my wife for no reason. I don't even know. Like, it's just fucking fall apart. Estrogen's a bitch, so make sure you maintain it. When you are feeling your best in the cycle, go find out where your numbers are at, and that will make every future cycle that much better. So, again, what should you expect in the cycle? Good libido, good aggression, good confidence. Your strength is going to go up again in comparison to your previous cycle, but again, don't expect anything phenomenal, okay? For me, in my body, testosterone just does not produce crazy strength gains. I get that from Anavar and Tren and stuff like that. Test is going to make you stronger, obviously, than you were, but it's not going to be anything likely to be groundbreaking. For a lot of guys that are just getting into this, they're scared of 500 milligrams. They're scared to have testosterone levels 3 times the normal end of the range. I am here to tell you 500 milligrams of testosterone is not a lot. Your body is going to tolerate it well. It's nothing that I would be scared of. Again, it just all comes down to estrogen maintenance. That's the most important thing. Your body is not going to miss a beat at 500 milligrams. Now, you may notice at 500 milligrams that your pulse is a little higher than it usually would be. You might have, you will probably see that your lipids start to be affected. I think that you can probably run 500 milligrams for 16 weeks and never have your lipids be out of range, but you will probably notice that they are negatively affected to some degree. You should have zero elevation of AST or ALT levels. Your kidneys should function perfectly normal. Your liver should be functioning perfectly normal. If you get a cystatin C, you should have no inflammation. I think that's the cystatin C. Never mind. You should have no inflammation. Every one of your biomarkers should be perfectly normal, with the exception of maybe elevated pulse and maybe a change in your lipids. If you're starting to have blood pressure problems, then you're probably not managing your estrogen. You're probably dealing with some water retention and some bloat and some edema, and that's what's causing the elevated blood pressure. 500 milligrams of testosterone is plenty for you to potentially need Arimidex. Like I said, 300 milligrams for me. There's going to be guys on the one end who can run 500 milligrams and have no estrogen-related effects. And there's going to be guys on my side that if you didn't take estrogen, you would have tits and you would look bloated like all over the fucking place. So again, anytime you're listening to me or anyone else on the internet talk about their recommendations for a steroid cycle, we are only talking either from personal experience, of what we've seen from friends, people you coached, stuff like that. Like there is no way to determine exactly what it's going to do to your body, so I'm just trying to give you an idea of what to expect. For me, on 500 milligrams of test, after the 200, I went to 500. I was able to gain 12 pounds of very, very lean tissue. I don't bulk like excessively. I don't like getting fat. I don't allow myself to carry a lot of water. So I never see these 20, 30, 40 pound gains on cycles. I've never had that experience. My gains have always been very meager, but I keep 90% of the gains that I get when I'm on, and that's what I care about the most. So again, if you were doing 200 to 250 and you jump up to 500 or 600, you should be looking for another 10, 12, maybe 15 pounds of body weight in your 14 to 16 week cycle. Set some PRs on your strength side. If you manage your diet and everything and you stay on top of your markers, your health is going to be good. You're going to stay lean. And everything is going to be phenomenal. You're going to start to realize that all of the shit they tell you about steroids to try to scare you is just not true. I have taken testosterone as high as 900 milligrams a week on top of a bunch of other shit. I personally love testosterone. It's a feel-good hormone. It's great for your mood. It's great for your libido. It doesn't make you unnecessarily agitated and aggressive. It just feels good to be on. And if it was up to me, I'd probably run 800 milligrams for fucking ever. Obviously, the Arimidex for me gets very expensive, but you should feel very good on this cycle, and it should get you more comfortable with how your body reacts to hormones so that we can go into our third cycle. And we're going to have a third cycle, which is a cutting cycle, and a third cycle, which is a bulking cycle. We'll start to introduce some orals and some more powerful hormones, and we're going to talk about that next time. So hopefully this video has been informative. Please, as always, I welcome comments, suggestions in the comment section below. If you think I'm an idiot, I know what I'm talking about, please share all of your opinions. I welcome everything. I do not ever censor my comments. So if for some reason one of your comments doesn't show up, that's YouTube playing games. It's certainly not me. And that's it. As always, we'll see you on the next one.